Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to look at everything we learned from the awesome new X-Men 97 trailer. We'll obviously be looking at the trailer itself and all of its Easter eggs, but I'll also be discussing how I think the original series will tie into the new series. We'll be looking at some of the toy releases and some hints that may give us as to what may be coming, and we'll go all the way back to SD22 for some of the images they released on the first looks at the X-Men 97 show. So much to discuss, really excited about this, so let's dive right in and see what we can find out. Don't forget, we have the February contest running all month long. Be a subscriber, leave a comment. You might win a book or a steelbook. Best of luck. Also, we have the membership option in case you're interested in helping with my goal of doing this full-time one day. You'll get custom emojis, behind-the-scenes videos, etc. But honestly, no matter how you support the channel, it's all greatly appreciated. Liking videos, leaving comments, and subscribing, it all goes a long way. So thank you so much. So yeah, there's been a lot going on recently. I mean, a lot. Marvel has been dumping so much exciting news, and I'm really sorry because of that. I've been behind in getting this video out, because on top of these three main MCU announcements, there was also the Madam Web movie. So much going on. So I did a video on Madam Web as well, if you want to check that out, as well as on Deadpool and on Fantastic Four. But finally, I hope it was worth the wait for this X-Men 97 trailer breakdown. So we actually start with Easter eggs even on the opening shot. So on the left, lower left there, you see Scott and Jean, and their picture obviously appeared in the X-Men series, as well as in many memes with Wolverine. So you've probably seen that before. On the right is one of the toys from the era, and it's unopened. So clearly a kid is not the one watching this TV, because if it was me and I was that age, I'd be opening the toy. Sure, it's worth a lot more if you can keep it in the box, but who is able to do that? Then on the top, we see VCR tapes. I'm sure that a lot of people watching this video have no idea what a VCR tape is, and hey, consider yourself lucky. Oh my goodness, the days when the only way to watch the show again was to record it on a crummy VCR, because otherwise you had to wait until it came back on again as a repeat. So we see on there X-Men Christmas Special, and I'll actually bring that up again later. X-Men Cartoons, just kind of general label there, and then X-Men DOFP for Days of Future Past. And actually, that's one of the things I really liked about the original TV show, and I'm sure they'll do this in the next series. They could really dive deep into multi-part storylines. So notice the Phoenix Saga was actually a 5-part breakdown of that story from the comics, and you need 5 episodes to really dive into it. Then they also had the Dark Phoenix Saga, and that was 4 episodes. And then finally DOFP, or Days of Future Past, that got 2 episodes. So let me know what you would like to see them do with this new series. What story arcs from the comics are you most interested in seeing them adapt? The sky's the limit. So much they could do with this. So, okay, the memories. Oh, the memories of, yeah, check your local listings to find out when's it on, because it might have moved around. Yeah, I'm so glad that we can now just punch it on streaming and be done with it. And then the trailer goes into the final shots, or the final moments from the last episode of 1997, with Xavier saying, "I'm proud of all of you, my X-Men." And then we see them all looking at something, and I'm going to go into this because I do think we need to discuss this final episode, because it's going to pick up right after that. So I'll go into a little more about what they're doing here, but notice how, like, terribly grainy it is. Yeah, some TVs were that bad. Good news is, if you watch this episode on Disney Plus, it looks a little better, right? This is off of Disney Plus, but oh my goodness, I cannot wait for the upgrade we're going to get in the new series and how crisp and clear it's going to look. But so what went on in this final episode from 1997? Well, we had Guy Ritchie in a big news conference. It almost looks like before the UN, honestly, but I can't remember for certain. But he's basically pushing for a mutant containment bill. So it always seems to be humanity versus mutants, and the fear, and people like Guy Ritchie stoking that fear. And the funny thing is, while he's giving a speech, they're all watching on TV. This is from that episode. And of course, that looked like us as little kids watching X-Men 97 on TV. Too funny. So Guy Ritchie then gets ticked off at Xavier, who's at this same press conference, pulls out this energy weapon and just zaps him with it. It was crazy. Mortally wounds him. So he's going to be taken back to the X-Mansion to be dealt with. However, we see the reaction that happens from A, the mutant containment bill, and B, this attack on TV against Xavier, and Magneto's about ready to go nuts. Magneto's in Genosha at the time, which with a ton of other mutants, basically an army of mutants, and he is ready to attack the world with them. In fact, we see around the world people, mutants most likely, but maybe some humans even, that can't stand what Guy Ritchie is doing and the mutant containment bill, and they want him. They're egging him on. Go and attack, please, please. However, the fact that Xavier is literally ready to die, I mean, they're assuming he's dead in this episode at this point. That kind of calms everything down. So the X-Men actually go to tell Magneto about the situation, and he calls off the attack and is willing to come and actually visit Xavier himself. But they can't figure out what to do, so they contact Lilandra, who had appeared in a couple episodes earlier, and they realize with her tech, maybe she can take him off and heal him. And yep, even Magneto, like I say, he shows up. It's kind of cool. The Magneto-Xavier relationship, just like in the movies, is so well drawn out and explored. And so I love it. I really love it. Yeah, Magneto actually cares for Xavier deeply. So then we get, again, this final shot as Xavier is taken away. So the key things there to keep in mind are mutant containment bill, humans and mutants really angry at each other, an angry mob of mutants in Genosha ready to attack. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, because Magneto just cannot wait for this series to arrive. But what the heck city is this? Does anybody have an idea? I mean, it's not New York, even though they transition to a scene which I believe is in New York right after this, which makes you think maybe it is. I mean, I guess it could be. I don't know. Tell me in the comments, where do you think this is? But anyway, they transition to this scene that I'm pretty sure is a street in New York. And then down there in the corner, kind of hard to see him, but I'm fairly certain that is both Callisto and Leech, two of the Morlocks, the more popular Morlocks. Callisto the leader, and Leech who can take away anyone's superpowers. And I'm wondering if the reference to the Christmas special, the X-Men Christmas special, is because the last appearance of the Morlocks was season 4, episode 17, Have Yourself a Morlock Little Christmas. So I guess if you want to kind of catch up on what the Morlocks are up to, you could watch that episode, and that would bring you up to speed pretty well on them. Okay, so then this newspaper that blows past is just full of Easter eggs. So first of all, even though we know humans seem to dislike the mutants, here on a Daily Bugle newspaper, which, notice, Daily Bugle, it's the same as, that's from the movies there, from the Spider-Man movies, same logo, etc. But here on the front page of the Daily Bugle is a mutant fashion show. So clearly not every human hates mutants. In fact, some really like them and are dressing up like them. So that's kind of interesting. We're definitely going to see this tension. But not everybody hates him. Then up here we have, is Spider-Man a mutant? Only Jonah could find some way to tie it back to Spider-Man, right? But there's a reason they did that, because Spider-Man appeared in the X-Men series, because they were all in the same world. So season 3, episode 7, during the Phoenix Saga, we have a very brief appearance. I mean, this is it. His shadow and the web shooter. I don't know why he wasn't in it more, but he wasn't. On the other hand, in Spider-Man's series, season 2, episodes 4 through 5, the X-Men appear in a two-parter of during the Neurogenic Nightmare, and we get a really cool battle between Spider-Man and Wolverine, of course. Got to have them fight if they're going to meet, right? So, yeah, the key is Spider-Man is in the same universe as the X-Men animated series. Will he make an appearance? I don't know. It'll be a small one, if at all, but I'd love it. That'd be great. That was one of my other favorite cartoon series. Watching both of these back-to-back on Saturday morning was great. So, what else do they tell us here? Well, they tell us the text is by Eddie Brock and the photos are by Peter Parker. So, again, really stressing that Spider-Man is in this world, but I'm a little surprised by text by Eddie Brock, because in Spider-Man's series, season 3, episode 11, Venom ended up sacrificing himself and fell into this vortex. I don't know if he ever came out of it. I guess so, right? He's writing in the paper. So we'll see if he appears or if that was just a clever little Easter egg. But let me know in the comments what you think. Did he survive this? I mean, I think Spider-Man Unlimited might vaguely tie into the Spider-Man animated series, and maybe that's how they're going to explain his coming back from this. I don't know. Anyway, very interesting that he's listed on that newspaper. But also, they discuss a Hellfire Gala. Okay, so what is the Hellfire Gala? Well, my first thought was Hellfire Club, I'll be honest, because I forgot that in the comics there actually is a Hellfire Gala. And quite often the X-Men attend it, clearly very dressed up. So, okay, I'm really interested in what this is going to be. And for that matter, where it's going to be. Is it here? Because in the trailer, they show this shot, another beautiful shot. Love this animation. But they show this shot. There's rumors this might be where the Hellfire Gala is being held. Okay. But then again, where is this? Well, the theory is that's Genosha, because at another point in the trailer, we see the same building. So you notice, same building there, just nighttime, daytime. And I don't know what the bird thing is. If anybody knows what that is, let me know in the comments. But notice there's a statue of Magneto and Xavier. Well, that seems like this would probably be in Genosha. But what's kind of funny about that is, if you watch the final episode from the 97 series, that's what Genosha looked like. And that don't look very good, right? I mean, Magneto basically stood up on those platforms at the very top, you know, calling down to the other mutants who wanted to attack the Earth. So, boy, Genosha got an upgrade. That's all I know. But it does kind of look more like in the comics. You know, this is Genosha in the comics. So probably they decided that, you know, it needed an upgrade, I guess. Or maybe Magneto was not in one of the richer places of Genosha. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that, because that's pretty funny. But then notice in the comics, too, we get the statues of Xavier and Magneto. So I think that's what's going on here. All right, so they definitely want us to think Professor X has died, right? I mean, they're talking about the professor entrusted us with his dream, very past tensey. This is a memorial for him. At least the trailer puts us back to back with this coffin, makes you think that's him that's died. And at first I thought, oh, it's just a ruse. Maybe they want to fool the rest of humanity. No, the X-Men are assuming he's dead because they're reading the last will and testament of Charles Francis Xavier. Okay, maybe he's dead. That's wild. I mean, I'm sure he's coming back, but maybe they really, really think he's dead. It's fascinating. So he's reading the last will and testament as Magneto sends over the book over to them. You can see the gold is kind of lit up. That's how he's using his magnetic powers to send it over to them. Last will and testament of Charles Xavier. And by the way, notice they're all in their sporty gear, but notice Jean Grey looks very, very pregnant. We will absolutely come back to this. I think this is the most fascinating storyline that we're going to be seeing in the animated series. So we'll definitely be talking about her a little more. But then menacingly, Magneto says, everything he built now belongs to me. So I think that's him being a little overly dramatic, because I'm guessing that ultimately this will parallel the storyline from the comics where he took over after Charles was gone, and he was a little rough at first, but ultimately became a good leader. So we'll see. We'll see where this is all going to go. But boy, it doesn't seem like it's going to start off very good. I mean, there's some definite animosity between the X-Men and Magneto. Also, how does this tie into this? Because it looks like that's Magneto down there, and he's on trial before the UN. I'm guessing at least, because he seems to be wearing the same garb as in an X-Men storyline where, once again, he was on trial, where he had to account for all the things he had done. So how does this tie into the fact that seemingly he's got the will and testament of Charles Xavier and everything has now been entrusted over to Magneto? How is this all going to tie together? Very fascinating. And then also we do see, this is from SD 22, one of the frames they gave us, and there he's got that M costume, which is similar to the M here. So, okay, it looks like they're definitely going to go this direction, and even the toy. There's a Hasbro toy that looks very much like that costume. So, okay, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all ties together with Magneto. Then remember I mentioned the tension between humans and mutants. I'm guessing this is outside of the UN, maybe even while Magneto is there on trial. And it ties very much to the last episode from 1997, because notice these are signs. This is a clip from that episode where they were screaming about the mutants. So I think it's just literally picking up. If nothing else, watch that final episode to really get yourself in the mood for where we'll be with the new series. But then also notice this FOH. Well, that's for Friends of Humanity. And I kind of thought they were done. Let me show you their last appearance, and you can decide what you think might happen with them. I guess they're not done, but they certainly went underground for a while, which is probably why there's a little dinky sign down there instead of a big one. So, okay, Season 4, Episode 14, the Friends of Humanity had to deal with their former leader, Graydon. So, here they are. You can see they're basically white supremacists, only in this case, they're more like human supremacists. But that's their leader, Graydon, total jerk. Oh my gosh, that dude was the worst. But they realize he didn't fully tell them everything. And so they dump him out the plane so that he can deal with, Sabretooth, who happens to be his father. Yes, the leader of the Friends of Humanity, who hated mutants, was the son of a mutant. And they leave it to you to decide what happened next, but you kind of get the idea Graydon's gone. But I guess it's true the rest of the Friends of Humanity, they're probably still around. They probably got a new leader. Maybe they laid low for a while, but I bet you they're going to be coming back, in force after this a human containment bill and Magneto and everything that happened. So very interesting. All right, so the X-Mansion, we get a nice shot of that, looking beautiful. Here's what it looked like in the series. Very similar. It is worth mentioning at one point, season 1, episode 8, the Juggernaut completely demolished it, and they had to totally rebuild it. But what's interesting about that episode is, at least when it originally aired, it aired out of order, because I'll never forget how confused I was by that. I'm pretty sure Disney Plus now has it in the right order. So if anybody's doing a rewatch, let me know if they have this episode, season 1, episode 8, if it flows correctly in order. I think it does, but it was really annoying as a kid. I'm like, I am so confused, because the mansion was destroyed, then it was back again, then it was destroyed again. It was really weird. But anyway, we get several teases of the X-Men team. There's our big 3 in particular. And then we get shots of Cyclops, of Storm walking along there. And there's a more close-up of her. I always loved her earrings. And there she is using her lightning. I noticed she's got her kind of the Mohawk look back again. That's awesome. And of course, Wolverine. You got to have Wolverine, right? But then we also see Gambit lighting up a card. We see Rogue. I loved Rogue. Her interpretation of Rogue is probably my favorite in any media anywhere. I don't know what it was. Just something about that voice actress, the animation, everything. Just loved it. And of course, Jubilee. You got to have Jubilee. And then now Bishop. Bishop is going to be part of the team, and we see him using his powers. He absorbs energy, and then he can fire it back off in many different forms. So that's awesome. One of the things I really love about the X-Men in the movies, the comics, and of course in the animated series is they always found creative ways to combine two of their power sets into something even better. And here we have Gambit riding Wolverine, and of course he's lit up Wolverine's claws. So I can't wait to see what happens when someone's on the receiving end of that one. Yikes. And then we see the assembled team there with the excellent quote, "We get this done by working together as a team," by Cyclops. Love it, love it, love it. So cannot wait for this. So if you're like me, you recognized everybody sitting here because we've kind of gone through all of them, other than maybe this dude. I mean, it kind of looks like Chameleon, to be honest, because I'm a Spider-Man fan too, but it maybe Caliban, but no, it's neither of those. It is Morph. You might remember Morph was in actually the very first episode and died, and you're like, well, that didn't last long. But then he came back again because it turned out he didn't die. But Mr. Sinister had kind of brainwashed him, brought out an evil personality in him, and then eventually by the end of the series, before it ended in '97, he had turned back good again and was getting ready to join the X-Men, trying to decide whether to join the team, etc. But still, if you notice, he didn't look white. Well, that's because the white form is his natural form. Like every other form is him being somebody else. This is him as just Morph, which is awesome. So yeah, I really like the fact they're showing that side of Morph. And we'll talk a little bit more about Morph. And so don't be mad at me that I said him, because at this point, until we see what's about to come up, calling Morph him made sense. All right, so anyway, Wolverine has a great quote, "Geez, bub, keep buzzing in my ear." I can't wait to see the interplay once again between Wolverine and Cyclops. Those two are fantastic together. So yeah, okay, let's talk about these characters, particularly Morph, something new we're going to learn about him. So Empire Magazine had a real nice write-up, went through each of the heroes, numbered them, so then you could go down and read about them. And you can read all these if you want. I'm not going to go through all of that. But let's talk about Morph, because it turns out that Morph, it says, this is a lighter take on the character who is non-binary. Okay. That kind of makes sense if you think about it, because if we're now seeing that Morph's natural form is non-binary, I mean, let's face it, there is no form to, so it really is they at that point for Morph. So So hold me to task if I don't use they going forward, but I just want you to understand why I was saying he before. But anyway, Morph has an interesting buddy relationship with Wolverine. The character's past with Mr. Sinister, the show's villain, may also come into play, they explain. So yeah, remember I said Mr. Sinister basically brainwashed Morph and made Morph fight and attack the X-Men. So anyway, very cool. Very interested to see what they do with Morph going forward. All right, so here we see them all out clubbing, so that's kind of fun. And notice Morph has taken what seems like the male form, but it'll be interesting to see, what Morph does. It goes back and forth between female, male, etc. Kind of like Gen V. If you saw Gen V, that was very interesting. You wonder if they're going to kind of go along that storyline. So fascinating. All right, so then here's more images from SD22 of some of the other heroes we're going to see throughout the series. Sunspot there, there's Morph again, Cable, Bishop, Forge, and Nightcrawler. So glad we're going to get more of Nightcrawler. Epic, epic. And then I do think one of the most important storylines is going to be Jean Grey being very, very pregnant. Remember I mentioned we saw her here earlier, and we're seeing her here. This is huge. So much going on with this. So here we see Jean Grey and Scott sharing a kiss together. But yeah, what is going on? Who is going to be their child? Male, female? I mean, even that we don't know, right? So in the comics, and I'm not going to go much into detail because I'm certain they're not going to adapt things directly from the comics. But in the comics, there has been a Nathaniel Grey and also a Rachel Summers. So there could be a male, could be female. We'll have to wait and see. But I do think they gave us hints in the original series as to whose child, or who the child may be. Because in Season 2, Episode 8, we got some hints as to who Cable's parents might be. So Cable is learning about the X-Men, asks his device to give him information. The computer voice says, name, Cyclops, field commander of the X-Men. And Cable says, I know about him and Jean Grey. Continue. So that's interesting. Why does he know about them, right? Well, then they're even more direct later. When Jean explains to Scott, I touched Cable's mind. And Scott says, who is he? What's he really up to? And Jean says, he's more important for the future, our future, than you could ever imagine. So I remember I certainly thought they were alluding to the fact that they were going to have a child one day, and that child would be Cable. So that Cable was basically their son. Will they pick that storyline up? Will they go there? Could be. Could be. There's another even crazier idea, though, that we're going to touch on in a minute. But certainly they at least laid the groundwork for Cable to be their son down the road. They hadn't had a son yet, but obviously Cable's from the future, so it all works out. All right, so we'll come back to this, but keep in mind, lots of ways we can go with their child. All right, so we see this group, this armored group, which because of the way they did the trailer, I'm assuming they're the same group that gets this Sentinel arm. So we're going to talk about where they got this Sentinel arm from and where things may go with the Sentinels, because clearly the Sentinels are coming back. Love this shot. This looks really cool. I don't know why, but I've just always enjoyed the Sentinels, and they've been so key to the original series. In fact, speaking of, they were the villains in the very first episode, Season 1, Episode 1. Then by Season 1, Episode 7, they had created Master Mold, kind of like the main mold for all of the other Sentinels and the being or controlling them and guiding them, etc. Then in Season 4, Episode 6, all of the Sentinels, including the Master Mold, were destroyed. And that actually is Morph there on the ground. Morph shoots a stalactite on the roof, which falls down and destroys Master Mold, and then the whole cave blows up. But notice the Sentinels on the ground there. I'm wondering if when this cave blew up, one of the reasons I'm pointing out some of these episodes is if you want a list of ones in particular to watch, if you want to just watch a few, these are some of the ones to check out, because I do think they're going to end up tying directly to the new series. Okay, so then here's a villain. I guess I hadn't ever read this comic. I don't know how I missed it, but I hadn't read it. So the Executioner, or how do you say it, right? Executioner? Anyway, the Hasbro toy makes it look like we're going to get him adapted to animation, and I think he's doing exactly what he says he's doing, killing mutants, killing the X-Men. So that's pretty cool. And then here's some of the other villains we may be getting that SD22 gave us some hints at. Obviously, Mr. Sinister in the center. We'll talk more about him in a second. Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost. Over on the far right is Callisto, who we've already talked about. Then Valerie Cooper, I think. What do you think? Is this Val Cooper? I mean, she never had glasses in the comics, and here she clearly has glasses. I don't know. But I think that's who it is. Let me know if you think it's somebody else, but it certainly seems like it. But okay, let's talk about Mr. Sinister. Supposedly he is going to be one of the main villains, which is why they put him in the center in this promo art. So, this is not the last appearance of Mr. Sinister, but it's a very, very important appearance. Season 2, Episode 2, Mr. Sinister clearly is obsessed with Scott and Jean. He says, "Your whole lives, I've watched you, tracked you, studied you. You are the prototypes, the chosen ones." And this is Scott when he was a child, obviously. He says, "And from your offspring, I will control the future of all human creatures on Earth." So he is obsessed with offspring, the offspring of Scott and Jean. And Jean's pregnant. Well, well, well. So he says, "Your genetic material will be the foundation, the master bloodline for an unbeatable race of mutants." So he's very interested in their genetics and their master bloodline, right? So wouldn't you think he would be extremely interested in whatever child Jean's going to have? So again, a lot of drama around this child. Is it Cable? Is it not? Is it somebody else? Either way, Mr. Sinister is going to be very interested in their offspring. But also, let's take this another step further. There's a toy release showing us Madeline Pryor from the comics. So Madeline Pryor was a clone of Jean Grey by Mr. Sinister. Well, she was many things, but that's what she was ultimately retconned into. We'll just go with that. Because again, the comics, lots of good stories, but a little convoluted over time. But anyway, so she's a clone of Jean Grey by Mr. Sinister. And notice the toy, what does it have? A baby. Well, that's interesting. So a clone of Jean Grey with a baby. And notice the comic I have on the right there, a son for the Goblin Queen. That was her other name, which may be what they go by for this, the Goblin Queen. Notice a baby. And there's a Funko Pop that has a baby. Okay, so let's put this together. Mr. Sinister was seen getting genetic material from Scott and Jean. Now we know that the Madeline Pryor will be showing up, the Goblin Queen, and she's going to have a baby. So is this even Jean Grey? Or is this Madeline Pryor? Did somehow Mr. Sinister pull a switcheroo and Scott is having a baby with a clone of Jean Grey, a la Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen? Oh my word. Like I said, there is so much going on with this pregnancy storyline. So tell me what you think in the comments. I mean, I've thrown out so many ideas. I don't have a clue either. I honestly don't, other than what I've said, that I do think this is all tying together. And my theory is that is Madeline Pryor, for what it's worth, and that the baby will be Cable. I think they're going to tie all these stories together. So that's my theory. But tell me your theory. Do you think it's Jean Grey? Do you think it's Madeline Pryor? Do you think they're going to have a boy? Do you think they're going to have a girl? Do you think they're going to have Cable? Oh my gosh, so many directions that this could go. Wow. All right, so we've been waiting so long to have heard this, right? Cyclops saying, "To me, my X-Men." Love it. Love it. Been way too long since we've last heard that said. And then here they are all lining up together doing the nice little group pose. Love it, love it, love it. So one of the big questions to come out of this will be, how will this tie into the other X-Men appearances? Like, is the Beast from the Marvels? Is he the same Beast in X-Men 97? My gut tells me no, but it does look pretty similar. And of course, we had Professor Xavier in the exact hover chair showing up in Multiverse of Madness. Now, he's dead, so there's no way that he's directly tied, but are they variants? You know, are they branches somehow? Or at a minimum, do we think we'll be seeing the X-Men 97 characters showing up in Secret Wars? That's kind of what I have to wonder. You know, will the ultimate X-Men team that ends up being the MCU X-Men team, will it be based on X-Men 97? I would be down for that if so. That'd be very cool. All right, bottom line, March 20th cannot come soon enough. My goodness, bring it, bring it. I love how this ended too. The trailer ended with the Disney Plus logo, and then it went static. Yep. And then, just like the old days, turning off the TV until we had nothing. Love it, love it, love it. All right, don't forget, February contest, be a subscriber, leave a comment, win a book or a steel book. And of course, we have the membership option if you're interested in that. Also, we have the Discord server. I always like to bring that up. We have almost 1,300 members, year-old people from around the globe doing all kinds of things, including watches, Comic Club, MMORPG, DC retrospectives, server awards. Because it's a year old, we have an iceberg that we're doing on all the memories, crazy memories over the years on the server. Yes, if you saw Madame Web, you can get yourself a custom roll. I have it because I've seen it and did the video, obviously. And then we do primarily talk about Marvel, DC, and Star Wars, but we also have another media forum where you want a topic, we can add it, and you can chat about it. So love to have you join. I will leave a pinned comment so you can join the server. Please come on and be part of the conversation. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.